So everyone was feeling pretty good last week, right? And then the Democratic Senatorial Caucus, whatever we're supposed to call it, totally effed us over. And so rapid response video coming your way. What does that mean? Subscribe, join the Raging Moderates community. Scott and I would love it. Yeah.
Subscribe, bitches. Welcome to Raging Moderates. I'm Scott Galloway, and I'm a liberal, or put another way, a surrender monkey total fucking bitch. How are you, Jess?
I'm Jessica Tarlov, and I don't want to think of myself that way. Maybe just our representatives, or some of them.
Oh, don't be so fucking mature.
It's early on Monday morning for surrender monkey bitch, but sure. Yeah, we surrender monkey bitch.
That was literally the kindest thing I could say about being a moderate Democrat right now. All right, so where are we? Let me just read us in.
Because I got moderate thoughts.
After 40 days, the government shutdown is finally ending. 8 moderate Senate Democrats have caved, voting to advance a Republican bill to fund the government through January 30th, with a promise, I love that, a promise of a December vote to extend Affordable Care Act tax credits for another year. Well, I'll sleep easy tonight.
Pinky swear.
There you go. The agreement also reverses Trump's mass firings of federal workers, adds safeguards to prevent future abuses, and guarantees food stamps funding through 2026. But this deal has ignited a civil war inside the party, a sharp clash over what it means for Democrats fresh off last week's election highs. Jess, same offer was on the table a month ago. Why did Democrats decide to cave now?
The pain was being felt in a different way than a month ago. I do think that SNAP benefits going away and then a court ordering them to be reinstated and then Trump saying absolutely not, I actually want people to starve, was a line in the sand for these 8 moderates. And I want to talk about what being a moderate means. Also, the chaos at the airports and in the air was something that was getting to be very difficult for people. It's especially frustrating, I think, in light of the great election night that we had on Tuesday, which was linked directly to the fact that it felt like Democrats had found some backbone, that they were standing up to Trump. Not that people necessarily liked the brass tacks of living in a shutdown, but that they understood that the Democratic Party stands for making sure that you have access to affordable health care, and the Republican Party stands for themselves and their rich donors. And that argument goes away when you are out there now in the spin zone. You know, I was watching Angus King, who I think is actually our worst messenger. I didn't know that to be the case because I don't hear from Angus King that often. But
the problem was the shutdown wasn't accomplishing either goals, and there was there was zero likelihood that it was going to. So standing up to Donald Trump didn't work. It actually gave him more power.
He should be on TV timeout. You go in your corner, but listening to the way that they're spinning it doesn't make it any better. And this idea of pretending that we're going to necessarily get the ACA subsidies vote that we want, or that there's going to be enough Republicans that want to join with us to do this, feels far-fetched at best. So, you know, Chuck Schumer was already on the proverbial chopping block, but this idea that he was orchestrating this behind the scenes, because Senator Shaheen said that. She told Brian Kilmeade this morning on Fox that leadership was informed of this the whole way through, and then shows up and votes no. I imagine that yesterday he told his wife and children, I'm retiring. I'm not even getting into this. Am I going to have is AOC going to primary me fight? He's like, I'm out. I'm tapping out. That's the only way to justify this, because shutdown politics don't matter as much for elections, though healthcare premiums going up will. But Democratic voters and the caucus will not forget. So surrender monkey Galloway, how are you feeling this morning?
I'm really bereft, disappointed. There was, I relate everything to World War II. There was something called the Battle for Monte Cassino. It was the oldest monastery, I think, in Italy. And the Nazis didn't believe that the Americans would bomb such a historic site, so they used it as a hideout and a lookout point where they thought they were safe. And the Americans said, this is awful, but this is war, and more people are going to die if we don't make hard decisions. And they bombed the shit out of the thing. And I believe here we should have bombed the shit out of the thing. I can't understand why we would put people through 40 days of this kind of misery only to cave. And what we've done is we've created a series of incentives that will come back to haunt the most vulnerable in our society. And that is, we have basically told Trump and the Republicans that as long as you continue to show the willingness to be depraved and cut off food assistance to your own constituents, will cave. And it reminds me of the Superman film where I think it was Terrence Stamp, a wonderful actor who recently passed away, was the enemy, General Zod. And he's observing Superman in a battle, and he says, oh, I figured out his weakness. He cares about these people. And so I don't think you go to war unless you're willing to make incredible sacrifice. And I think we've created an incentive system that's going to come back to haunt us. All this was for naught. This couldn't have been. I don't see how. I mean, Schumer and moderates will try and spin this as we care, but the reality is, the realpolitik of it is that Americans have consistently communicated with their vote that they'd rather have strong and wrong than weak and right. And maybe we're morally right here, but we look very weak. I think this is a disaster, an absolute disaster for the Democratic brand and also for Americans over the medium and long term. And I don't mean to be cavalier with people suffering, but I think ultimately this will end up in a more emboldened Republican Party and president who have decided that they can transfer wealth and prosperity from lower middle class homes to the wealthy. And I think this just shows that being depraved pays off in the face of these very well-meaning Democrats who lack the resolve to actually go to war with a formidable foe. I'm incredibly disappointed. I think this is wrong strategically, ethically. So yeah, I'm as you can tell, I'm not a fan.
No, and it's also the worst kind of Republican administration to signal weakness to. Like, I was watching George Bush gavel in Nancy Pelosi when she became the first speaker in American history, first female speaker, in American history. And Dick Cheney's applauding Nancy Pelosi, and Bush gave the most delightful speech about her and her lineage and, you know, what this meant for the country. And you're looking at it, and I have a lot of views about, you know, the Bush-Cheney administration, but you're thinking like, oh, well, these are human beings. And then you look at what we've got now, and there's absolutely 0% chance that we're going to have a moment like that ever again with them, or that they are going to want to make a deal with us or have a functioning government, because the optics of that makes them look bad to their people on top of it. So we are diametrically opposed in terms of what they think good governance looks like and what we think good governance looks like under a Trump administration. And so we have told essentially a gangster, oh no, you were right about us. We are weak and feckless. And this branding of it about like, this is what moderates do, that's not true. There are tons of moderates from the Senate caucus, Democratic Senate caucus, who said no to this. Like Alyssa Slotkin, John Ossoff, who's the most vulnerable Democrat up on the map in 2026, said no. Ruben Gallego. And I think we have to do a lot of work to be able to draw this distinction between, you know, what it means to be a moderate having to do with your policies. Your policies should reflect a majority opinion, right? Whatever your threshold is, 55%, 60% of people think X thing, versus how you communicate and how you behave, because there are moderate fighters out there, and those moderates are the future of the party, not the people who are on the back foot and are either retiring or saying, okay, well, I'm not going to be up until 2028 or 2030, and we can get past this, which might be the case. And I like Senators Rosen and Cortez Masto and, you know, Hassan. Shaheen is retiring, but it hurts us at such an insane inflection point in our fight to find our way in pushing back against the Trump administration that I'm a little bit at a loss for understanding the rationale. And Dana Perino, my colleague on the Five, who, you know, is very savvy about politics, she was Bush's press secretary, she kept saying to me, you know how this ends. You're going to cave. It's a question of when you're going to do it. And I'm not on today, but I will text her that she was absolutely right.
I think this is something that infects the West and the Democratic Party, and that is we just don't recognize the sacrifice involved in trying to be right. And what I mean is, if you look at Ukraine, this war could be over if we were willing to give them long-range missiles. If Europe, who is being invaded, was willing to put boots on the ground, the best way to end a war is to win it. But despite the fact that Europe is being invaded, the idea of them actually putting a fucking boot on the ground seems just anathema to them. We don't want to spend the money to push back on Russia. And Russia has shown a willingness to either kill or injure 1 million of its own men. And yet Europe, who is being invaded, won't put a boot on the ground. And we, who spend $1 trillion a year, more than the rest of the world combined, on our military, don't want to give them the long-range missiles to continue to damage their energy infrastructure. And folks, this is, when you're talking about food payments and insurance and healthcare, I think this is something worth going to war for. And it's easy for me to say because I actually don't have a health insurance. I decided to go naked about 6-7 years ago because I can afford almost any health outcome. And I realize that's a story of privilege and I can't truly empathize. But my idea, and I called one of our U.S. senators and said, if I were the Democrats right now, I would propose the following, and I think it would be effective to end the shutdown on more favorable terms. The Secretary of Transportation was saying that they were going to reduce flights by 20% to ease the strain on air traffic controllers. Every plane requires the same amount of resources to guide it, set a route, and then land it safely, no matter the size. And did some research. 16% of all tail numbers are private planes. I would have proposed a resolution, and yet they only ferry less than 1% of Americans, the wealthiest Americans in the world. So my idea was to propose the idea that they get where they need to get, and 99% of Americans can get where they need to go for Thanksgiving by just saying no tail number of a private plane can fly or get clearance from the FAA until the shutdown is over. And it would have had kind of a double whammy. One, it would have been a way of easing the pressure on the air traffic control infrastructure without affecting that many people. And within about an hour, every senator and representative would have heard from the 12 very wealthy people that have that person on speed dial. Because unfortunately, the people who run our country and who have the most influence were not that impacted by this shutdown. And once they started being impacted, I think both sides would have been very much encouraged to figure something out. So I just don't think the Democrats is OS. I think we've been played here. When your enemy convinces you that as long as they act depraved, they will win, guess what they're going to do more of?
Especially when it's their nature on top of it. Like, it's not that far of a stretch for Trump to be thinking that. Are you excited about the Epstein files finally coming out? Because that maybe, I mean, there's a part of me that feels like Mike Johnson will still try to find a way not to call the House back into session. I know he has to. It's supposed to be Wednesday. He has to swear in Adelita Grijalva, who won her race, what is it, like 6 weeks ago now?
Yeah.
The discharge petition will be coming to the floor. So are you ready for your third most powerful man in the world?
To get us close up?
Yeah.
Well, say more about that. Do you think we're actually going to see the Epstein files?
I mean, with these guys, and this links to, a party so set on serving their high-end tax base that they don't even care that a ton of their voters are about to see a 200, 300, 400% increase in their premiums. Like, I don't know. They're so effed up. But they do have Republican pressure on this, the Thomas Masseys of the world, Marjorie Taylor Greene, so would I put it at over 50% odds? Yes. Would I put it at 90% odds? No, because I think that it's going to be a 5-alarm fire, all hands on deck. This is something that Donald Trump doesn't want to happen with every single fiber of his orange being. So do you think it's going to happen, or we're going to have more dog and pony show about this?
The honest answer is I don't know. I would have thought it would come out by now. Let me put it this way. I think they're going to figure out a way to, quote unquote, do a soft release, and that is claim they've released the files. I don't know if it'll be redacted. I don't know if they'll claim for national security reasons they can't release anything. I wouldn't be surprised if they release it and anything with Trump's name is redacted, but they leave all the Democrats or Democratic billionaires that were down there.
Yeah.
I feel as if I don't have a sense for the mechanics here, and I hope it comes out. I think both Democrats and Republicans involved here should be held accountable and pay a price. But
well, feels like we're due for a big Wall Street Journal story again, from the birthday book and the weird letter. I'm sure they have something up their sleeve. And if the discharge petition does go through, there are very good reporters out on the hunt for this kind of stuff. But it's not even bringing me joy.
Not even bringing you joy.
Against the backdrop of the capitulation.
The only thing I know and the only thing I'm certain of is that we should run Jessica Tarlov to primary Senator Schumer.
I think that there are far better folks to do that.
Oh, my God. You're such a woman.
What?
No dude says that.
Maybe some of them should. Everyone's running for New York 12th.
You go behind enemy lines every day. You're smart. You have the primary attributes of an electable candidate. You're tall and attractive. You know rich people. You're super smart. You have your heart's in the right place. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Tarlov 28, New York Senator. That's when he's up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm in.
We got a ways to go, though.
We just need to come up with a really good bumper sticker.
It would be like, I'm not Chuck.
I'm not Chuck. There we go. Okay, Jess, we're gonna leave it there. I'm not Chuck. Jess, have a great rest of the day.